clap, Craig Rooney. What an absolute badass. What's going on, everybody? Jagro in the house. Foo! War for Derpy Paws. How's it going? What look, Ardoc, what's going on? 1 + 1 = 2. See, I'm good at math now. Shagrathian 6666. What's going on? Fellatio! What was it? Fuck, I forgot the joke. Nice of you to come by. Rami Leb Metals in the house. Pigeon Show is in his house. Hellfox, thank you for being here, my friend. Rexter. Look at all these sexy ass people in the chat. A lot of people are asking where you first. Oh, Tamimi is in the house, and he also says Zegga, which means the kakka in Iraqi. I'm proud. You remembered it. I did. Ascor, what's going on? Wait, Shagrathian Zahmed Ramal, what is going on? Wait, I have a thing. Wait, let me turn this up. That was a bit too loud. Sorry, but that was my air horn. I'm a DJ now. Welcome, Ahmed. How's it going, man? Is fellatio a bot? Everything you write, he auto fellatio. Can we time Rami Leb Metal out for that dad joke? At least a minute. Thank you guys for being here. What is going on? We have another podcast today. It's Wednesday. It has been a while. We haven't done some of these podcasts, but we're kicking things back up. And I'm very excited about today's guest. We have Sheenagh. She's an audio engineer. She's a musician. She's just a general badass. 4 Derpy Paws actually timed him out. She actually timed him out. But yeah, I'm very excited. She's got an amazing story, a very unique person that I've gotten to know a little more recently. And exclamation point guest in the chat. You'll get a little blurb about her and an Instagram link. Go follow her on Instagram. And we'll if you have any questions, that's the one I want to say. If you have any questions, we have a channel point redeem under the chat where it says ask a question. If you plug your questions in there, they line up in a queue. And then we can shoot the shit. So let's do that. Let's fucking hit the intro. Hit it! Sheenagh, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I tried to get you on the show before, but I genuinely tricked you into this last time.
I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, I'll come on the show. To be fair, it's awesome. I'm just really shit at chatting. Well, not really, but chances are I'll just keep swearing.
We can swear here. Shit, dick ass, cunt, pussy, everything else.
Cool. Good to know.
Okay. So usually on the podcast, I say I gave you a little bit of a botched intro before the intro, but in your own words, if you can introduce yourself to the tribe, the Maniacs.
Hello, I am Sheenagh. I am originally from Scotland. Grew up in Scotland, but I'm also half Egyptian. My mum is Egyptian, my dad is Scottish. It's a bit of a strange mix. I've been an audio engineer for 18 years now. Oh, I feel old saying that. Holy shit. 18 years, yeah. So I started as a studio engineer, then went into live sound, and then I've ended up in post-production for film, TV, and podcast.
So that's gravely summarizing it, because every time I hang out with you and we have a conversation, you're like, that one time I was doing monitors for Machine Head, or that one time this guy that the Slipknot were telling me this thing. So there's a broad spectrum of things that I want to go through, but yeah, take us back to the very beginning. What made you fall in love with music? I think
music for me, because I've always had music in my house when I was growing up, and it's the strangest contradiction of music. My dad loves, blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and a bit of Run Rig. And then my mum would listen to a lot of sort of Arabic music, and she also loves country and Western. It's a bit of a strange mix of music in my house. I've always sang since I was, very young. I'd always been into singing. It was just something that naturally happened and something I naturally loved. And started writing music when I was, it was awful. It was terrible, but I started writing songs when I was really young, and it was just god awful, but bless. And then there was one Christmas I was given a talk boy. Do you remember those? Do you remember that from Home Alone? The talk boy.
The you record into it and then you could of course
yeah. I was given one of those.
I didn't know it was called a Talk Boy though.
Yeah, Talk Boy, and they were just honestly, it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I was given that for Christmas, and I just literally never put it down. I would record my own radio shows and record shit off the radio, which wasn't probably the smartest thing to do, but so for me, it kind of started there. I was always into music at school, although I never took music at school because the music department and the teachers, well, some of them were lovely, but some of them weren't that great. So I didn't study music at school, but I was always in the music department at lunchtimes and stuff. So it's quite nice. And then when I graduated from high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was like, I loved music. So I kind of went into a college course because I didn't take any music at school. It's kind of hard for me to go into like a degree in whatever because I didn't really have a foundation of music. And so I went to college for a year. And that was the first time I came across like software. It was Cubase to start off with.
Oh God.
Yeah, but do you know what? I actually really loved Cubase for me because I have horrendous OCD. So Cubase for me was kind of it was actually okay.
Wait. But before we get into the nerdy stuff in college, I want to ask those first couple of songs that you were writing. What genre were they? First of all, or where was it on the spectrum? Second of all, do you remember any of the lyrics or anything that you had back then?
Oh God, I don't know if I remember any of the lyrics. I remember it was kind of ambient, like almost like experimental music, mainly because I didn't have a foundation of music, so I didn't really know what I was writing. And it was kind of like quite soul bluesy melody. Because my dad always said to me when I was a kid, he's like, "You're a blues singer. You're a blues singer." I mean, I was, didn't have much power or control over my voice at that point, but so it was kind of bizarre. It was kind of almost like Massive Attack meets Amy Winehousey soul sort of vocal. It was really strange. I do not remember much that I'll think on it, but I do not remember any of the lyrics for a good reason, actually.
I love asking, especially people that ended up in bands that have seen some success and stuff. I always love asking, what was your first band name? Because it's either what's your first song? What's your first band name? It's either the most brilliant thing that just never panned out, or it's one of those things that you don't want anyone to hear ever.
I think in memory, like technically my first band, which was a horrendous name, we had to put it down to an acronym because, we were called the Eclectic Sound Conspiracy.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what were we thinking? Who's going to put that into a bloody webpage? Like, absolutely no one.
I'll be honest with you, I can't even spell that shit.
Yeah, I know, right? So when people would write it down, they kind of just gave up after like collected and whatever. But that was kind of like a mix of friends. But we did write music, but it was kind of like individual. Like we'd use songs of mine, we'd use song of Kirsten, who was the other singer, but my actual first proper band where we were all writing together. Oh, I loved that band. We were a 7-piece post-metal band, and we were called The Great City. And we had three guitars, drums, bass, a screamer vocalist like you, and me on I was like a little mini craft workstation myself. When I turned up at gigs, the sound engineer used to fucking hate me, mainly because I took some of my own like DI boxes with me, but I think I required something like 6 DIs just to myself for the amount of stuff I take with me. I had like a K oscillator, I had a synth, I had a vocal pedal. I had like all this different stuff that I used, samples and everything. So yeah, the sound engineer used to see me come in and be like, "Oh, for fuck's sake."
You had your 8 different channels just to mix and match everything that you're bringing to the table on an already 7-piece band.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was back in 2008, 2009. I think it was. Yeah, that's when I was in that band.
We have a couple of questions in the question box that I'll get to. The only thing I want to know is, Sheenagh a punk rocker or is my life a lie? I'm done.
The Ramones. Love it. Love that song. So there's 2 songs which my name is in. Sheenagh is a punk rocker. And there's also Sheenagh is a parasite. If you Google that one, that's also another song with my name in it, which is, fantastic. I'll go with punk rocker. It's much cooler.
Let's talk a little bit about that name, because the tribe always makes fun of my name because it looks like I lost a game of Scrabble. It has all of the letters that aren't supposed to go together, and then it adds a little bit of an accent the way you're supposed to say it. But you have one of those names that I look at and I'm like, it's not as bad as mine, but you have a G in there, you have an H at the end. There's a bunch of things going on.
Silent ass letters on the name of on my end of my name. Whenever I'm anywhere where my name comes up in a register, I already know it's my name before they say it. They're like, Sheenagh. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. It's fine. My dad, bless him, got a little bit tipsy, let's say, when I was born. And when he went to put my name into the register, it was Sheenagh with just the A. And my dad, I think, got a little bit, creative, we'll say. And he decided to, I don't know if it's like kind of Celtic my name up or what, and decided to add the GH. And so people ask me his name, Sheenagh, Sheenagh, Sheenagh. And I'm like, no, just Sheenagh. Just disregard the last 2 letters of my name.
Jogger is saying, don't diss Adnan. That's the name of my oldest son. Listen, Adnan isn't that bad. It's my last name. It's Mryhij. And I fuck that up sometimes. I don't know what to do. Let's go back to when did it hit? Like, this is kind of what I want to do. Because everybody likes music. Everybody, enjoys being in a band, especially in high school and starting out in college. But no one goes like, I'm going to study this. This is 100% of my life now.
Yeah, I think when I went into college for that year, and I kind of started I was shown things like Cubase. I started on Cubase, and then, back in the day, because as a bit old, we're all 43 in here, by the way. I don't know if I explained this. Chat, please throw up your 43s. Sheenagh can't see the actual chat, so if you throw it up on screen as an emote, she'll get to see it. Everybody 43 right now. But yeah, so Cubase. I started on Cubase, and then we still had things like reel to reel in my college. It was amazing. And then I got the introduction to Pro Tools, and then it was from then on, I was fully immersed in Pro Tools. And then when I finished my college, I decided to move, because the college was in my hometown in Aberdeen. And then I decided to move down south to Edinburgh. Well, I say down south, it's only 2.5 hours south of where I was currently. And I decided to do a bachelor's in music. So there was different elements to it. There was performance elements to it. There was the technical side. And there was the business side, which I think is really important. A lot of people don't actually get any sort of guidance in the business side of music.
Absolutely.
And then, so when I went onto the course, I was technically a singer. But unfortunately, the singing teacher wasn't, let's just be honest, she was an asshole. That's the easiest way to say it. She was not a nice woman. She had not long graduated herself, so she was quite young. And there's nothing wrong with being, a young teacher. It's just she was still in competition with her students.
Oh.
So she didn't have the right mentality. It's such a shame, because there was 2 girls, me and this other girl, Roberta, who's incredible. Roberta Pia, she's an incredible vocalist. We're not your sort of, when we went into sort of singing classes, which I only actually attended 2 before I decided to just can all singing classes with her. She kind of wanted us to be like pop singers and, sing musical theater. And I'm like, to be fair, that's great. If that is what you want to do, but I was already very sure of what type of music I wanted to perform. And so was Roberta. Roberta had like a really old soul voice. It was just beautiful. So we would go in with our sheet music of stuff that we would want to sing. And she would just disregard it. She would throw it out and be like, no, you're going to sing something from Phantom of the Opera. I was like,
please tell me she really spoke like that.
Yeah, she actually did. She was just a bit of a lobby.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. So, and she was just a little bit shit towards Roberta and I, because we were slightly different from the rest of the group. So she kind of made our life a bit shit, which as a teacher, you have one job.
I want to ask the chat, has anyone ever put you off something that was supposed to be like the guiding, a teacher or a mentor, anything like that? Have you ever been put off by someone kind of that was supposed to inspire you to do something and made you completely go the other way? I'd love to know that. But yeah, at least you had the business side.
Yeah, I think it's really important, because not a lot of courses actually deal with that, which is such an important side. It's even when you go to school, like I swear, when you go to school, there should be like classes in this is what it means to get a credit card. And this is what it means, like life skills.
Absolutely.
Because most people, they graduate from high school or college and they have no fucking idea when it comes to finances. I still don't,
Yeah.
And so to have like guidance in the sort of finance side of music was really important. Just like when they talk about, different types of record deals, like distribution deals, or, just, and when it comes to online music and the percentages that you get as an artist, and all these things are really important to know. I think it's part of the industry. It's a very big part of the industry. So
was there anything back then that you were starting to lean towards? Because like I said in the beginning, you're kind of a jack of all trades. You have a whole bunch of stuff under your belt, and we're gonna dissect it as we go along. But like, was there anything you're leaning towards? Who's that? Was there anything that you were leaning towards, generally speaking? Like when all of that stuff was on the plate, were you like, I actually like management more than singing, or was it singing and then like, I'll need management because I want to be a singer? Was there anything you were leaning towards more than the other?
I think for me, it was definitely the technical side, as in when it came to actually recording music and then editing and mixing. Ooh. So I had a couple of exams with the singing side, and I just dropped it completely and fully focused on the technical side, which was amazing because then I could take classes like circuitry. So where you literally build your own compressor pedal. So you would literally solder the circuit board yourself and make your own compressor. It was amazing. Wow. It was really cool.
So there's a lot more of the engineering and audio engineering. That's kind of...
Yeah. Like the full spectrum of engineering, from sort of inside the machines that you use and why they work the way they work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And how they work internally, and then the actual recording side of it, and mixing and editing and all this sort of stuff, which I find really fascinating. It's like a wormhole. You get sucked into it and you're like sitting, I mean, you'll know this, you sit with a mix for for hours and you're like, fuck, and you just lost half a day and you're like, what?
Sending you samples. What do I do?
What is this? Help, please.
No. I don't know if you know this. I studied audio engineering. I did it at SAE, but I thought I was getting into like something that would help me be more of a musician.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a lot of options. I funked out of high school. I was really horrible. And then I went to Jordan and this new thing opened up that I had no idea you could even study at that time. SAE opened up and they're like, we have audio engineering courses. And I thought, fuck, I'll get to make music and like pass a grade finally. But like I was, saying that you were more attracted to it was more the engineering side of audio than it was the performance side of audio. I got to do a lot of cool shit. Like we installed the Neve because we were the first batch of kids. So we installed the Neve. We did all the, the cool shit, setting up the actual university, the actual institute, whatever it is. But it just wasn't for me. I started excelling when it was time to edit the audio, where we would stack, vocal takes, or if there was anything to do with post-production. I remember one of the projects, that's the word I'm looking for, was they gave us footage from like Transformers or something, and we had to add our own
sound design. I did that too. I love everything. That.
And that's where I started like really excelling. And then I realized I think I like post-production. I hate I don't want to know how to mic a fucking kick drum. I don't care. Just give it to me after and let me like fiddle with it. So that's what she said. Speaking of kick drums. So that's kind of how I found my way through it. But I haven't met a lot of people that are like, I'm into the nerdy shit.
I totally am into the nerdy shit. And it's funny because when you talk to because I've done all the different sort of aspects of audio engineering, like the live side, studio side, post-production side. And whenever I have chats with live guys that are just purely live guys, that is what they love, like live engineers. And they say, God, I don't know how you can, he's like, I can do a 5-band bill in the time that, you're stacking 45 sound effects for these scenes and stuff. It just depends on what sort of, which type of engineering you get pleasure from. For me, sound design, I love sound design. It's just, for me, I get completely enveloped in it, and it's just, I love it.
So let's talk about that. How did you go from, I love singing, I love audio engineering, and then sound design and live? Because you kicked everything off with being a live engineer. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I started as so when I was doing my undergrad, so my bachelor's, I completely focused. I dropped performance and I just focused on the technical side. So we would do a lot of it was kind of studio based. So we get musicians in and, you know, string quartets, or I mean, one time I had a bloody didgeridoo and an accordion in. I was like, what the fuck am I meant to do with this? I'm mixing this together. It's like the weirdest instruments ever. Trying to like mic these things, honestly. But it sets you up for like working with random bands and musicians when you go into the live field. But so I kind of graduated as a studio engineer at the end of my degree, and then I would kind of go into venues and go and watch bands around Edinburgh. And there was one specific venue that I loved. It's closed now, unfortunately, because, you know, Edinburgh Council are wankers. But it was called Studio 24. And it was the only sort of main alternative venue in Edinburgh. And not just like rock and metal, it was everything from like, they'd have Balkan nights to sort of like proper dubstep techno nights to like massive metal nights. It was amazing. It was the only place people could go to just... It was different from everywhere else. And I remember I used to go down to the sort of metal nights and go and watch the bands and everything. And I was very good friends with the front of house guy. And so when it kind of came to the concept of monitors, to me, it seemed so bizarre because I came from like a studio education, if you know what I mean. So monitoring is very different in that respect. And so I kind of became a...
Sorry, just in case anyone in the chat isn't completely aware what like monitors is and front of house is, just explain that. Front of house, for everybody, that it's what you hear as a crowd, basically, from the band. But explaining monitors, how would you explain that?
So monitors is, I would deal with the sound for all the musicians that are on stage. So every single musician would have theirs, either on the floor, they'd have like a speaker called a monitor speaker, or they'd have like in-ears. And every single musician has a separate mix of what they need to hear on stage in order to perform. So that's what a monitor engineer does.
But you were saying that kind of attracted you a little more?
Yeah, because it was a concept I'd never really kind of had much to do. Like I'd never actually really done much with monitors. And so for me, I was like, ooh, something new, hang on. And I became a little bit sort of obsessed with it. I started shadowing Matt for the longest time. And so I would end up, that's how I started doing monitors. So I would start doing monitors for the local bands and everything within Edinburgh. And then we get some touring bands coming through and I would do the monitors for them. And for me, because front of house I've done before, but for me, I get so much more joy out of monitors. For me, that was like, I knew that was my comfort zone. I was like, I'm quite a people person. So for me, I deal with the people that are on stage. I quite like that. And dealing with their individual mixes. I just found that to be my sort of comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah. I as we talk, I'm realizing you're the exact opposite of me. I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to. Don't tell me your problems. I'm not going to fix them.
I mean, it purely depends on the people, because the amount of shit I've been given as a monitor engineer, it's not even funny. I'll tell you a very quick story. So there was this same venue. So we had a band come in. Should I name them or not name them? I don't know.
You can, if you don't mind.
So it was a metal band called Onslaught.
Oh, yeah, we know Onslaught.
Yeah. And they came and they played at our venue in Edinburgh. And so my monitor position was pretty much just in front of the load-in doors. So I was just, because at this point it was like a really old school analog desk with a big rack of outboard equipment. So it wasn't a digital desk because, these things weren't really that accessible in Edinburgh back then. It was kind of on the cusp of the sort of analog digital thing. And so they started loading in behind me. And then all I could hear was, oh, we've got a chick on monitors. And I was like, well, that's a bit of a bizarre thing to say, but okay. And so anyway, they started loading in and they got on the stage and they started, tuning up and getting their stuff sorted. And the guitarist, I don't know what his issue was, but he was, determined to make my life shit that day. And I was like, right, mate, if you're going to be, I was like, first of all, the one thing a lot of musicians forget is the fact that the monitor engineer controls what sort of gig you're going to have. You're either going to have a great gig and have fantastic sound, or they could be a total wanker to you and just mute you. Like, yeah. They have the power, like, give them some respect. And so for me, obviously, because I love my job, I was like, well, just gonna truck on through this. And he was one of these people that was kind of like, oh, can you just notch a little bit of like, 430 out of my wedge, and like all these like specific
I
things.
know that guy. I know.
Everyone's come across a guy like that, and I'm like, okay. And so what I do at this point is I have my bullshit button. I call it my bullshit button. And what I do is I put like my hand on like a pot on the desk, so it's kind of like one of the knobs of the desk, and I pretend I'm turning it. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, yep, is this better? Just let me know when it sounds better. Let me know. And he's like, oh, yeah, there. I wasn't even turning it. And so I was like, okay, that's my bullshit button. And I know you are talking out of your arsehole. So I was like, fine, this is the type of person you are. I'm just going to do my job anyway. Anyway, the gig was great. They played phenomenally. They were a great band. It was a full venue. It was like 1,000 capacity venue, and it was full. But he was still like, during the gig, he was still kind of looking at me like, oh, I need this. And I'm like, absolutely, whatever you need, let me know. This is my job. And then at the end of the gig, he came down to me and was like, I think I owe you an apology. And I was like, oh, do you now? For what exactly? And he was like, I was total asshole to you, wasn't I? And I was like, yeah, actually, you completely were. And he's like, well, to be honest, he's like, this was the best monitor sound I've ever had. And I was like, well, yeah. Good for you. You just didn't have to be such a wanker about it. And then I think it was like a week later or something, Matt got an email to the venue from their management. And he was like, oh, I just want to say, the guys had a very great gig, in your venue. And well, we're just inquiring if your monitor engineer was available for touring. I was like, Matt was like, what do you want me to write back? And I said, absolutely not. Go fuck yourself. So, yeah.
Yeah, that actually ties into something Jagro asked. It's in the question box.
Yeah.
Did you have to take a lot of shit being a woman in the music/engineering industry? I know I've known a couple of female sound music producers and musicians who've quit because of our shitty wannabe male musician behavior. That's a great question. Thank you, Jagro.
That's a very good question. Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, you've kind of got to adopt a really thick skin in this sort of field because, like, for example, in this region, I'm the only female engineer in the GCC. Like
in the entire region, not in the country.
Yeah. In the GCC. Wow. And like for me, I'm always looking for more female sound engineers. When I come across one, there's a lovely girl called Ananya. And she's just graduated or she's still at SAE in Dubai. And like, I see her and I'm like, she's got so much potential. She's amazing. And she just listens. And I get really excited at that. Cause I'm like, oh my God, there's another girl in the field. Like, yes. Because there's hardly anyone when it comes to female, in the UK. Yeah, there's quite a few. I know quite a few in the States and everything, but in this region, none. It's really, it's difficult.
What is the GCC for those that don't know? Squatter, what's going on, Squatter? Goat curling competition. Yes, you're absolutely correct. That's what GCC stands for. No, it's the Gulf. It's all the countries in the Gulf states, if that makes sense. So it's not it's the Gulf. The Gulf states. Yeah,
Gulf. I don't know what it stands for. That's really bad.
Let's Google it real quick.
Google it.
Does GCC stand for? You guys, It's the Gulf Corporation Council. Fuck, that makes it even more confusing.
Yeah, that's not what I thought that stood for, but okay. We got Gulf right though.
Yeah, it's in the Gulf, you guys. It's in the Gulf. What's going on, Squatter? Everybody, Squatter Madras from Bloodstock Festival's in the house. Woo-hoo. Go say inappropriate shit to him.
Who, me?
Everybody. Everybody in the chat say inappropriate stuff. But yeah, that's fucking cool. And how I don't know how to ask this. How did you give less of a fuck? It's basically like how does one get thicker skin in an industry that is absolutely infamous for, and especially a genre, because you're into the rock and metal world that's made a name for itself by being sexist, basically, by being like, we all love rock and metal, and we're trying to change, you guys. We're trying to change everything, including the elitists, including that stuff. But up until a couple of years ago, I don't think anything was easy for a female in the entire industry.
It's true. Although what's funny is, like, whenever I did bigger shows, like Download Festival or Sonosphere or whatever, never was I ever questioned by anyone or felt or made to feel like I was inadequate or less able. Or so it's funny that you say that, even though it's because those are exclusively rock and metal festivals. But never did I feel once when I was there, because the whole point is you're there because you know your shit. And so you wouldn't be on the crew unless you knew your shit. So everyone kind of has that sort of base knowledge, if that makes sense. So never did I have any problems when it came to larger gigs. But for example, my first corporate gig I did when I first arrived in Dubai. So obviously I was working in a studio, and I was offered a corporate gig at one of the hotels, the ballrooms of a hotel, and it was pretty much running like 12 wireless microphones, like handheld ones, and also like, you know, the sort of Britney mics. I just call them Britney mics. It's easier to call them Britney mics.
I was genuinely thinking, oh, the Michael Jackson ones, right? And then you said Britney at the same time.
The Britney mic. So that was literally all I had to do was, you know, just run these microphones and just keep an eye on who was going up on stage, and then just make their microphones live. Super easy. So when I turned up to the venue and the crew were there, and I was like, "Hi guys, I'm Sheenagh, I'm your engineer today." They were like, "Oh, you're the engineer." I was like, again, that's a really weird thing to say. I was like, "Yes, I am the engineer." Like, why is that weird? And anyway, so they just kind of go over.
Are they expecting you to go, psych?
Yeah, just kidding, I'm the makeup artist or whatever. Like, what the fuck? What do you want me to say? Like, oh, fucking hell. I mean, no disrespect to makeup artists, because I could never do that job, because that's like another art. But so we went through the gig, and everything was fine. And then it got to, so part of my job as the engineer is, which has always been, that's why I've got a terrible back nowadays, is when it comes to the end of a show, doesn't matter if it's corporate, if it's a rock band, whatever, you strip the stage. That's part of your job. So you take all the mics down, you take all the cables off, all the stands, you dismantle everything, you take the cabs off, the drum kit. It's, you know, that's part of your job. And for me, I've always done that for years and years. And so it came to the end of this corporate gig, and I'm trying to take all the speakers off the sticks, and, you know, and all of a sudden the crew just went nuts. They came like, "No, madam, no, don't, we will do this for you." And I was like, guys, like, I really, like, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. First of all, that's lovely that you're looking out for me. But I was like, I may be small, because, you know, I am only 5 foot tall, but I was like, I may be small, but this is my job and I know what I'm doing. If I want to dismantle the equipment, it's my job. Just leave me to it. I was like, you're more than welcome to help me. Like, if you want to do that side, I'll do this side. Great. But just leave me to my job. So it's like a sort of preconception that just because you're a girl, you're going to be slightly weaker than a guy. And I'm like, motherfuckers, we go through childbirth. We're good. We've got a high pain threshold. Like, Jesus Christ.
It reminds me of this, and I'm gonna spoil it, you guys. If you haven't watched it already, you deserve a spoiler. Curb Your Enthusiasm, the new season where he's basically he's arriving at an airport and calls a car company, and the driver is this woman that comes up to, you know, carry his bags and stuff, and he feels so awkward about it that he carries his own bags, and then hurts his back somehow. And then it's this cyclical nature of like, but she wasn't supposed to be, you know, a woman carrying my bags, because that's not supposed to happen. And then he calls and asks for a male specifically, and they're like, wait, why? Do you have an issue with women? Like,
yeah.
Just,
are you misogynist?
So yeah, exactly. Let's check out the chat real quick, because I see you guys. I see you guys talking about a bunch of stuff. I am rock and metal equals sausage fest, but Bloodstock is run by a brother and two sisters, and it never really made any difference to me. From Squatter, absolutely. Hellfox says disagree there. It's a myth that metalheads are more sexist than the average person. I mean, I think the industry more than the average metalhead is what I'm getting at, Hellfox, because I've seen. The average metalhead doesn't give a fuck, but the industry somehow has a. Am I being fair to saying that, Sheenagh?
I don't think it's specific to metal, to be honest, because again, when I do the bigger festivals, I've never felt anything untoward by anyone. But in the industry in general, yes. Like, for example, in Dubai, you have bands playing all the venues, covers bands playing music throughout the whole city. And it's like there's very much a look, like a female singer has to go on stage looking a certain way or she doesn't get hired. Yeah. Because I've seen this with one of my really good friends, like, oh, Jesus Christ, her voice is just phenomenal. I swear she's got an extra lung in there. But because she wasn't the typical, she was really quirky, but in such a beautiful way. For me, I think she's beautiful, but she's kind of a bit like me, covered in tattoos, like has her own style. She's fucking cool, man. And she had like bright colored hair and everything. And whenever she would apply to work in bands here, they'd always look at her and be like, oh, you're not really what we're looking for. And it's not really the aesthetic we're looking for. And I'm like, but they'd rather get some sort of swimwear model who looks amazing. Like, well done on your ass, well done. But I mean, you can't sing for shit. This is what they'd rather do. They'd rather get somebody who looks pleasing, because most people in this industry, for example, they listen with their eyes. Mm-hmm. They don't actually listen to the talent of the person on stage. They just look at them and they're like, yes, that person looks like a singer.
You hear that, chat?
Yeah.
Quit listening to me with your eyes.
You're listening to me with your eyeballs. Because
I just saw Akron Dave said, just wishing this pretty lady would go off the screen so I could see Adnan. Dave, I want you to hear what I'm saying. Okay, sorry.
But with the guys in this play,
just like you said, there was there's editing for a long time as well for me. There's an insane amount of things that you get to hear people say about real people that you're like, I didn't realize you can judge someone like that. Like, I'd be doing, corporate events, editing something that was, a launch of something. And then the producers would come back and be like, hey man, that fat ugly girl, can you cut her out of the scene? And I'm just like, yo, what the fuck, bro? She bought your product. Like, what are you doing? Why is that a problem? He's like, no, we find someone else. And they'd get into specifics and shit. And I was like, man, I didn't know people could say stuff like that. That's fucked up.
Yeah. And why is that okay? Like, why is that okay? Like, it's not.
It's not okay.
Like, fuck you. And that's the thing is, in the guys in the city, whenever they go on stage, like I know guys that they go on with their fucking ripped cons and the ripped jeans and the fucking black t-shirt. Their hair hasn't been brushed. They've not shaved, and they get hired because it doesn't matter. Like they can look however they want to go on stage. And then, but I'm like, fuck. If I went, if I tried to go on stage, my hair chucked up in a bun, no makeup on, they'd be like, what's wrong with you? You look so tired. Or I'm like,
you look tired is a great one. Todd always gets that.
Oh, you look tired. No, I haven't got makeup on, fuck face.
So what let's name drop a little bit. Cause you have worked with a lot of different people from around the metal spheres. Blaze, what's going on? Welcome. Let's name drop a little bit. What kind of stuff have you what kind of bands have you worked with?
Well, as in just across all genres, or
like who are some of your favorite people to work with?
So at the same venue in Edinburgh, we had back in the day. So when the Architects first started out, when Sam had his long hair and it was the original lineup, bless them. They played my venue in Edinburgh. So that was one of the first sort of hardcore bands that we had at that time that came through Edinburgh. So, and I remember, oh God, that literally came screaming back to me. I shouted at him because I caught him when we were stripping the stage. I was at a front of house and I was getting something and I looked over at the stage and the singer, Sam, was coiling a cable around his elbow.
Oh.
And I told you earlier, I have OCD. I will fully admit, like, I have really bad OCD, especially when it comes to like equipment and gear. And so when I saw him doing that, I literally switched on the front of house like communication mic and I was like, stop! And he was like, bless. I had to apologize to him later. I felt so bad. He actually shat himself. He was like, what? And I was like, stop calling your cable about, you're going to break the insides. And so that was quite I left an impression, let's say that, but maybe not a positive one. No, to be fair, he did laugh, but I felt bad afterwards. And then after them, we had Soulfly come in. After Soulfly, we had Fozzy. Oh, that was fun. Fozzy, Chris Jericho, and his band are phenomenal. Unbelievable musicians.
I only recently found out about this. I had no idea he had a band or anything.
So good. And it's although it's interesting when you solo Chris Jericho's vocals in a monitor capacity and you just hear it dry and with no processing. And I'm like, whoo, child, that's a little bit pitchy. But as a performer, he's unbelievable. Great performer. And his band were just killer, absolutely amazing. And then we had kind of like sort of different bands in. Like we had a band called the Gentleman's Dub Club. It was like a ska band. Like I think there was like 12 of them on stage, full brass section and everything. And then what did I do after that? I think then I kind of started I went to Download Festival as a festival goer to start off with. Fell in love with Download. And I was like, it's just a happy place, super happy place. And then I kind of got onto their roster as crew. But the thing with big festivals like this, you kind of have to earn your stripes. And I'm okay with that. If it's a job you love, you will happily do that. Because again, you're an unknown entity and they have to get to know you and they have to get to know your skills, which is absolutely fine with me. So the first time I worked Download, I was like a cable basher. So I would move the cable at the front of the stage for where the sort of dolly grip of the cameras used to go, so it didn't get tangled. So I had a great time though. It was fantastic. And then is
that the technical term, cable basher?
For me, like that's what I was put into the schedule as a cable basher. So I don't know if that's the technical term, but I think it is. But and then the next year I went back and I was sort of helping with the backline, placing mics. Changing over, obviously, because it's chaos, really, isn't it? Band after band. And so I was just an assistant on stage and I'd change the mics, place them back on cabs and whatnot for whoever was playing next. And then the year after, I was kind of going to be doing the same sort of thing, but then one of the monitor engineers kind of needed a hand with something. So I ended up behind the monitor desk because obviously they knew that was kind of my strong suit. So I ended up doing monitors for... Who's the first one? Against Me, I think it was. Yeah, Against Me was the first band. And then as I started coming back year after year, then that's when sort of the band started to get bigger. And then they'd actually put me in the schedule as monitor engineer. And I was like, hey, this is cool. And then in between that, I did a couple of Sonospheres as well. And I remember getting my pass for Sonosphere. I wasn't sure because sometimes you don't actually know who you're going to be working with until you get on site. And then I was given my pass and I turned it around and it said Deftones. And I was like,
how dare you?
Yeah, almost like vomited a little bit in my mouth. And I was like, holy shit balls. But the thing is, I say that, but the thing is, there's a crew. There's a whole crew that makes a show work. It's like, there's like 3 of us around the monitor desk. Just in case something goes down, you have to have contingency for everything. So, because with Murphy's Law, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And most of the time it does go wrong. So you've got to assure that nothing actually, if something does go wrong, nothing shows out front that it's going wrong. Or to the musicians.
I have to ask, Chino's vocals soloed on a monitor mix. What? Yeah?
Like stunning. Absolutely stunning. Like I'd happily just listen to his dry vocals. He's just so good.
Yeah, I haven't seen Deftones live yet. I have a fucking Deftones tattoo, as I always yell in chat. No, but I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them play any.
Oh, they're just the energy is just it's other level. And what was after that? Who did it? So the biggest one I've worked was.
That's what she said?
Yeah. Felicio. The biggest show I've worked, and for me, I don't actually remember much from it because I was I'm not gonna lie, I was shitting myself, absolutely shitting myself. And it was, when something, you just don't quite believe you're there. And that was Slipknot. Mm-hmm. And there was like 4 of us on the team, and it's hard to remember much from that because it was so fast. Everything had to be so quick. And it was a 16-way monitor mix. So that's 16 individual monitor mixes that you have to take care of.
Wait, why is it
simultaneously.
16?
Because it was the year they had extra musicians, and they had like the steel, like the trash can drums and stuff.
Yeah.
So everybody on stage needs to hear what's going on. So you have to everyone has to have either a wedge or in-ears. Everyone has to hear what's going on. So there were so many musicians on stage. It was crazy. So we had 16 monitor mixes to take care of.
Damn.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So
and then
when you go back to a band that's like a 3-piece, you're like, hey, I got this. Don't worry about it.
I was like, wow, this is a walk in the park. This is so easy. But yeah, God, it was hard to sleep after that one because I was just like, fuck, did that just happen? Like that's nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And then there was the story I was telling you about the other night, the Machine Head one. Oh, I've got to say, Steve, their front of house guy, I promised I'd tell everyone that he is my hero because he is my hero. He's amazing.
Massive shout out to Steve. Wait, let's do the air horn for Steve.
I don't know if he's actually in the chat or watching or whatever. I think he said he was going to log in. But yeah, I've got so much respect for that man. And hopefully we'll be bringing them out to this region soon.
We shall be working on that. But
Yeah.
What's the Machine Head story? I know you and I have had a conversation about it, but what is the Machine Head story?
So when I was at this point, when I was living in Edinburgh, I worked in a music shop. So we had obviously loads of guitars, equipment and everything. And I used to deal with anything to do with high-end recording equipment and live PA equipment. And there was one particular day where it was quite quiet in the shop. And then all of a sudden, when I was kind of sorting a display, there was a group of guys came in, and I heard him, the first guy that came in out, he was speaking to somebody at the desk, American guy. And again, apart from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August, it's quite rare when we get Americans in the store. And the guy, when I looked at him, he looked like a metal dude. And I was like, oh, I don't know this person. Because again, the metal scene in Edinburgh is very small. And so then they pointed towards me like, oh yeah, Sheenagh can help you out. So he came up and he was like, yeah, we've got a show tomorrow night at the Liquid Rooms. So the Liquid Rooms is like a 900 capacity venue. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. And he's like, yeah, we just need he's like, I just need to grab some equipment that we need, a couple of stands, blah, 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 and everything. And so I was sorting them out. And as soon as I was chatting to him, I kind of looked over his shoulder, and behind him was Machine Head. They're just walking into the store, and I was like,
band.
The full, apart from Rob.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I know who you're doing sound for now. Like, because I was really the only metalhead in the store. So I kind of like, everyone at the front desk was kind of a bit like, yeah, some musicians. And I was like, it's Machine fucking Head. Like, oh my God. And then the drummer went down to, we had like a rolling section, and we had like a display drum kit. It was the top of the line at that point. It was like the TD20 or something. And he just went on to the kit and started smashing away on this drum kit. And I was like, oh, this is a bizarre day. When I woke up this morning and didn't anticipate this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I helped them out, and I got them all the equipment they needed. And most of the stuff, like it was hardware. So they didn't even need to buy it. I said, like, we've got hardware in the store. You're more than welcome to use for the gig. You don't need to buy it. You can just, you can loan it to you. It's on the shop floor anyway. It's not going to, as long as you don't, put your foot through it or anything, or smash it or whatever. And so he was like, oh, cool, thanks. He's like, do you want to come to the show tomorrow night? And I was like, yeah, that would be great. He's like, yeah, no problem. Okay, I'll put you on the guest list. I was like, oh, fantastic. Because for me, I didn't even know Machine Head were playing. Because again, I would never anticipate they'd be playing in a 900 capacity venue in Edinburgh. Yeah. And there wasn't much marketing on it. And so the next day I went down to the venue, kind of rocked up to the door, did that really awkward thing where I was like, I think my name's on the list. I don't really like doing that. And they're like, yeah, so in you go. So I walked up to front of house, and there's Steve. And he's like, hey, come on in. So went into front of house, and he was showing me all the settings for all the different, we were just had a little bit of a geek out session, which was fun. And then all of a sudden, when the band were starting on the first song, and there was this horrendous feedback coming from the stage, like low end, like ringing feedback. It was horrendous. And I looked at Steve. I was like, are you doing their monitors? He's like, no, there's a monitor guy. He's round the corner. He's like, but there's no comms. There's no communication. Didn't have any radios or anything. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, do you want me to go and relay a message, or do you want me to just go and, help out or whatever? He's like, yeah, if you could, you just go and sort out what's going on. No problem. Left front of house, went round to the monitor position. Oh, and the thing is, the guy on monitors. So at this point, I think, yeah, I was studying at this point. So I went back to uni after did my bachelor's, was in the industry for like 5 years as a live engineer, and then decided I enjoyed learning, so I wanted to learn more. And I went back and did my master's. And so in my master's course, there was this one guy who was it was just all ego. Like this guy everybody else in the class was super cool, like absolute dudes. I mean, to be fair, with these courses, it's usually 90% guys. So they were all just super lovely chaps. This one guy in particular was just a bit of a knob. I was rude to everybody, kind of thought he knew more than everybody, knew more than the lecturers, this sort of thing.
There's always one in every batch. It's almost like a quota you have to meet.
You have to have that one dickhead.
Yeah, I'm going to steal the word knob from you. I'm just going to call people knob from now on. Yeah.
You're such a knob. It's just such a descriptive word. It's great. And so I went over to him and I was like, oh, his name is Liam. I was like, hey, Liam. He was like, oh, hey, Sheenaghs, how are you? And I was like, well, better than probably you currently are at the moment, bro. And this guy, he was very much an indie guy. He wasn't into rock. He wasn't into metal. He wasn't into anything remotely heavy. So I thought it was quite a strange decision. He was on monitors, but he worked in the venue. So it was the luck of the draw, I think. And so he started to have a bit of a meltdown. And I was like, I'm here if you want me to help you. Like, I said, and I just told him the frequencies that were ringing. I said, if you just notch them out, you should be okay. So it got a little better. He notched the frequencies I was telling him, notched them out with the wedges. And then I went back to front of house and I said to Steve, and Steve was like, who the fuck is on monitors? I was like, yeah, it's a long story. It's a guy that's in my course. I didn't say anything about him. It's professional. I was like, I didn't tell him, oh, yeah, he's a wanker. I just said he was a strange choice for this type of band. Because again, if you know the music, you can do a better job, I think. And so the feedback continued and it was getting worse. It was really quite bad. And you could see everyone on stage, Rob getting pissed, like super pissed, as you do, like, because this shouldn't be happening. And so Steve just turned to me and was like, can you just go sort it out? He's like, take him off monitors, just go for it. And I was like, okay. So I went round and I just looked I didn't even say anything to Liam. I was like, Liam, he's like, yep, take over. I was like, okay. And so I just went in, took over, and it was fun. Again, I got to watch a cool band from monitor side and have fun. So yeah, it was good. It was fun.
It's kind of crazy that I mean, it happens in every industry, but it's kind of crazy how it happens in the music world, where you stumble onto opportunities, and like I'm thinking about, growing up wanting to meet musicians that you eventually end up working with, growing up loving a band or even just a song or something, and then end up being part of their growth in another element. Like I'm doing some editing for a couple of bands. I'm doing some other stuff. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy when you're like in that moment. I can imagine you at the desk, like looking up and there's fucking Machine Head playing. It's like, it must be pretty crazy.
It's crazy. It's nuts. Like I have these moments because it's difficult when I'm on monitors. It's you're drained by the time you finish monitors, because never do I look down at the desk. I'm always looking up at musicians, because when they're playing on stage, they don't have, like, for example, a guitarist doesn't have any limbs to tell me they need something up or down or whatever. It's a really subtle head nod or like eye flick or something, which I need to see. So it's a really intense, however long their set is, it's really intense. And so I'm always quite drained by the time I forget a lot of it. I know like it happened and I know, but it's hard for me to recall certain things. For me, I kind of get that feeling when I'd always schedule, like, for example, one of my favorite bands of all time is Lamb of God. And we've had a chat about this before. Like, it's just, for me, there's so many reasons why I love that band. And I'd always try and schedule, if they were playing a festival, to not be working on another stage when they were playing, so that I could just go and watch them. Because it just, for me, there's just, like, I'd be in the sort of artist village and I'd be going to get a coffee or whatever. And then there's just like Randy there with his, dreads up in a bun and his hoodie on, his glasses, and he's just taking photos and stuff. That for me is the coolest part, because I'm just like, it's just so nice to see, because at the end of the day, they're just people. As much as I respect the hell out of them, they're just normal people. Yeah. And it's just nice to see them doing their shit, what they do. And for me, the most beautiful thing is to watch bands pre-gig rituals. That's my favorite thing to do. If I'm not working, I'll go side of stage and I'll try and watch what they do as a band before they go on stage. I just find it really fascinating how people, what they do to kind of psych themselves up before a gig.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Well,
Svengalis isn't that interesting. We just kind of fart and drink.
Yeah, but it was cool. You kind of all had a sort of like bro moment in the sort of side of stage bit when you were playing last time. It was good.
Yeah, there's a little bit of farts, a little bit of drinks, a little bit of bromance, but
a little bit of bromance.
Speaking of Lamb of God, and Akron Dave just said, shout out to Mark Hunter, absolutely. This weird ass fucking thing happened to us a little while ago. So Mark is from Chimera, a band that I grew up idolizing. The reason I scream the way I scream is because of this guy. And we met on Twitch. Actually, oddly enough, Rob Flynn. So it's all connected. Fucking Sheenagh, this is all connected. Rob Flynn has a podcast. Thank you for turning the lights off. Oh, Lamp of Good. Thank you for the Lamp of Good. Rob Flynn has a podcast. He had Mark Hunter on about a year and a half ago. Mark on that podcast was talking about his Twitch channel. And I thought, fuck, what is Twitch? I don't know what that is. But let's check out what Mark from Chimera is doing on Twitch. So I made a Twitch account and started tuning into his shows. And at that point, I still had very early ideas of the podcast going on Facebook and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, fuck it, let's just do it on Twitch. There's so much more engagement and the chats live and stuff. So Mark kind of pushed me to joining Twitch. Like he inspired the Twitch thing. He also inspired a lot of the music thing. Mm-hmm. Rob was involved because I was listening to Rob's podcast on this thing. Lamb of God, as you know, is also one of my favorite bands. Yeah. We had this massive story on one of the podcasts. I told the story of, a Jordanian cover band wanted to play Lamb of God, but in Jordan, the authorities wanted the lyrics and the titles of all the songs. So we changed it to Lamp of Good because Lamb of God would get flagged, obviously, in Jordan. And I told the story, and the chat found it hilarious. 4 Derpy Paws did that redeem that she just did, where it does the ha and the lights turn off and stuff. And then I told that same story to Mark Hunter, who came on the show. He was a guest on the fucking podcast. And, after years of listening to him, I met him back in 2008 when they were here in Dubai. And it was all like kind of connected. And then I told him the story of Lamp of Good when we eventually got a Lamp of Good t-shirt done, because the chat just wanted, like the tribe really wanted the Lamp of Good t-shirts done. I sent him one. And then, how long was it, Akron Dave? How long ago was it? A month ago? Randy gets sick on tour.
Yeah.
Gets the Rona. They call Mark Hunter to fill in for him on tour. Mark rocks up wearing the Lamp of Good t-shirt to a Lamb of God show.
It's so good.
And I was just like, what is life right now?
You're like,
It was the craziest fucking thing. It was the craziest fucking thing. Seeing, and like, people I grew up idolizing and listening to and stuff I'm not going to spoil anything, but we're working together on some cool shit.
Hell yeah.
It's crazy. It's fucking awesome. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about, like being in music in general, even though and we'll talk about that in a second. I have struggle calling myself a musician.
I'm the same. 100% the same.
Yeah, you're...
we had this chat the other night. Yes, I can't.
You are the harshest person on yourself that I've ever met. He wore the shirt in Soundcheck. Yeah, he did. And that actually reminded me, Ardoc, thank you. He did a second episode while he was in Soundcheck with Rob Flynn wearing the Lamp of Good t-shirt. So it was like a cyclical nature. Like it was just the thing that got me to find out that Mark was doing Twitch, that got me in Twitch, that made me like meet him and like have, you know, a close connection. And then, yeah, it was just a cyclical nature. Him wearing the t-shirt of a joke or like a story I told on the podcast that then For Derpy Paws made a thing. It was crazy. It was crazy.
It's mad. It's like that circle where you're just like, holy shit, the world really isn't as big as we think it is it?
It's not. It's not. Absolutely.
Crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, I love that stuff. I love it so much. But yeah, you're harsh on yourself a little bit.
It's hard because like even though when you know I was grown up and I was a singer and everything, but for me like I very much see myself as an engineer. So still to this day, if I go on stage, I absolutely shit myself every time. Doesn't matter if it's songs I know, songs the band I've played with before, like every single time. I think that's natural for a lot of people because I mean, it needs you care, I suppose. But even when I go on stage nowadays, I'm still absolutely shitting myself. That's
a good question to ask the chat. For those that do perform or anything like that, even if you don't necessarily perform, like, you know, walking up on a podium doing a speech, do you get stage fright? Do you get stage fright? Because I do still to this day. I even get a little bit of stage fright just before every live stream. I get a little nervous. I get a little thing in my things.
Thing in your things?
Thing in my things. That's the only way.
It's because you care. That's the thing. It's because you actually care. If you didn't have those feelings, it means you don't really care for it much anymore. And you're like, whatever happens, happens. But you actually give a fuck. That's why you're nervous. Yeah,
it kind of, someone told me that a long time ago and it kind of changed my perspective on it. But it also, I have major insecurity and massive anxiety. So I also think, am I caring too much? Like, yeah. It spirals a little bit 5 minutes before. But then the first word or the first scream or the first note or whatever it is, it just kind of it balances it out a little bit.
Yeah. So I have the same thing even as like an engineer. I know I'm an engineer, but even when I step up to a monitor desk, I'm still like, whoo, shit. Like, you know, every single time. And then, you know, you're kind of into the first song and everything's fine. You're like, okay, cool. You know, you still have that sort of like pit of your stomach feeling where you're like, you go through all the possibilities of things that could go fucking wrong. And that's what your brain is programmed to do. That is always think the worst scenario. And most of the time, you know, the worst scenario doesn't happen, but you're prepared for it at least.
Yeah. That's a good segue. You have, like you were saying, the actual show is in your hands.
Yeah.
As a monitor engineer and as an audio engineer in general, when a band's playing, whether you're front of house, the show is in your hands. Did you ever think I might not be ready for this before one of the booked things? Like, did you ever doubt yourself enough where you're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now?
Yeah, I mean, because I but I think most people with creative brains, although mine's quite technical, but I'm mostly creative, we have massive anxiety. I have massive anxiety. So I will always talk myself into thinking that I don't know what I'm doing, although I do know what I'm doing. So it's a pain in the ass. So, I mean, I think when I was given that pass that said Deftones on it, I was like, can I do this? I don't know. Is this the right pass? Am I, you know, like that sort of, this is my internal monologue of like, fuck, like, I'm gonna fuck this up. I'm gonna fuck this up. And you try, like, you literally tell yourself that you're gonna fuck it up, even though you know exactly what you're doing. You know the band, you know, like everything in front of you, what they need. So there's, you know, you're not gonna fuck it up, but you're gonna keep telling yourself you're gonna fuck it up.
It's yeah. I was gonna delve into like mental health, you guys. You know how I love talking about that perspective and perception. And Derpy just reminded me, do you care or do you worry? There's two different things. You gotta care, but you shouldn't necessarily worry about things.
Yeah, it's more of a care thing.
Yeah, that's where the balance is, right? Because then you start snagging into like the worry realm, and things change. But Ascar says he shits bricks every time. Steel Shot says, for me, I used to have stage fright, but I came up with the idea of imagining everyone naked, and that would make me laugh and forget about it. I don't think you came up with that. I think that's a known thing. But also,
that is good.
it's it does it work? I don't think it works. I've heard that a million times, but I can't just walk around imagining people's ding dongs out. Like it just doesn't work.
I mean, I've heard of that before. I don't think I've used it myself, but yeah.
Well, I've never been around a bunch that I actually would imagine naked. That's
No.
it's just we wouldn't do that. Not at the shows that we go to.
No, because from a monitor position, the only people I can see is the band. So I'm just like imagining the band with their schlongs out, and I'm like, let's not do that.
And profile.
Yeah, profile. That's even worse. Oh God, no. Oh no.
Derpy
God.
says, never worked for me in public speaking settings, but everyone needs to find their own thing, I guess. Absolutely. Dave says, I've never really had stage fright. I know my tunes, and I know that mistakes and shit happens. You just move forward if it happens. See, that you sound a little more seasoned, Dave. Because once I started getting a little more like, if I fuck up, I know how to recover. That kind of made it a little easier. But I get the pre-show stage fright.
Yeah.
Dave
That's the
says
thing is there's always fuck ups in sets. Like that's absolutely normal. It's how you handle the fuck up that is,
Yeah. Dave says, I usually like being the center of attention. I was having this conversation the other day. And I want to ask you this, Sheenagh. Most of the people I meet in the music realm, in the sphere, are fucking introverts.
Yeah.
You are someone that I've gotten the sense that you're a little more introverted than extroverted.
Oh, massively. That's the thing is when it comes to like social gatherings and stuff, yeah, I can, chat away. I love a chat. I think everyone, this. I love a good chat. But for me, I'm like super introverted. My worst nightmare would be center of attention. Absolutely hate it.
But at the same time, you're a singer.
I know. It's just a massive contradiction, isn't it? And that's why I get so nervous because, like, I swear to God, it's like something out of what fucking film is it? Talladega Nights. I get on stage and I'm like, what do I do with my arms? Like, I actually become very aware of my limbs. And I'm like, I swear to God, if I had an instrument in front of me, it's fine. Like, I have something to like channel my nervous energy into. But I'm like, you always put a game face on. You've always got your sort of face of like stage face of, everything's fine. But inside you're like, fuck. And it's just, I've become very aware of my arms. It's just a really bizarre thing. I'm like, what do I normally do with my arms when I'm standing on a stage? And then you start to overthink it. And I'm like, I shouldn't really be thinking about this right now. I should probably be thinking about the song I'm about to sing.
Yeah, I think if any part of my stage elements changes, like if I don't have a microphone in my hand or I don't actually have the monitor to step on, like tiny little things change,
yeah,
I'm completely lost.
Yeah,
that's
because
my
you have your
comfort zone.
natural,
It's like,
yeah.
I know where to go, I know what to do, but if you told me, sing with one of those Britney mics, I don't think I pull it off.
No, because you have your natural sort of way of moving, your natural thing that you do when you put your foot up on the wedge and you're like, you have a natural way of performing. So if you were to take that away, you become very aware of yourself. It's really bizarre. Although for me, it's only if I'm singing something like, for example, when I was in my post-metal band, that was different because that's the music I love. And so for me, I was very much in it. And because of the people I was with, like I loved my band so much. And it's very different when I perform that type of music because I'm very much enveloped into the music. But if I'm doing if I get hired for a corporate gig and it's covers or something, for me, I'm very aware of myself because it's not like it's not a comfort zone, but I'm just, it's not as believable for me as is the music that I love.
Mm-hmm. That's a fucking good way to put it. Believing in it versus performing it. That's goddamn, girl.
Damn.
I'm gonna use my clip button right now. Before I want to talk about you as a performer, you moving to Dubai and this whole chapter here. But we have a couple of questions about this section. Dave is saying, are you single and how do you feel about a long distance relationship? Asking for a friend. For Adnan. He says, just kidding. What was the favorite show that you have got to work? What was your favorite show that you got to work?
Favorite show. I say Machine Head, although it wasn't scheduled. I think that's why, because it was just so random. Although the thing is, it's hard. The Slipknot one was so fucking massive, but I don't really remember much from it because it was such a blur. But I just remember at the end being like, "Whoa, that was fucking cool."
Yeah.
So I mean, on a grand scale, yeah, I suppose the Slipknot one was like fucking mind blowing. But it's so hard to remember a lot from that. So when I think back to the Machine Head one, because I remember I was very aware. I was looking around, just being like, "Fuck, that's Machine Head." You know, like I was very aware of what was going on.
Yeah.
So I remember a lot more from that.
I don't know. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, you guys. Chat. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I have 600 times. When I met Metallica. They're gonna kick my ass if I say the story again.
You met Metallica?
Back in 2011, you guys, when I was working with Nerf Sound, they opened for Metallica, and I got to meet Metallica.
No, she wasn't ready.
Back, it's just I couldn't remember anything, but it wasn't because I was nervous. It's because I got drunk. Yeah. Sorry, they're destroying us in the chat. Okay, Derpy, this is a great segue. Derpy asks, on stage you have the band around you. In my case, being in company and not a sole focus makes it easier to not feel like the center of attention and therefore more comfortable. Do you think that's a thing for you two?
Definitely. Whenever I used to play with a band, and I'd usually end up. I mean, if I'm singing, it's fine because I'm distracted with singing. When someone else in the band, because at one point we had 4 singers, and so when one of the other guys was singing a song, if I wasn't playing percussion or something, I'd feel really exposed because it was a really big stage. So I was like, okay, I need to fill this time with something so I don't feel awkward. And so most of the time what I would do is I would go behind the drum. I'd go up in the drum riser with the drummer and I would just like pick up a bit of percussion and I would just rock out with him and I'd feel so much more comfortable. It's just that standing in the middle of a stage and not doing anything. It's just a horrendous feeling for me. I just don't like it. It's not a comfort for me at all. And for me, I come from a sort of like monitor engineer background where I'm used to being on the stage, but not on the stage, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I have the exact same thing. Even as short of a duration as like this Bengali chorus where Josh is singing and I'm not, or something like that. I don't know if you noticed this, but during those times, I'm either in the corner having a drink or I fill in his lines with like yelling at the crowd.
Yeah.
So whenever he trails off on a line, that's where I go, put your fucking hands up.
Everybody, get your fucking hands up. Yeah.
Because then I'm doing stuff.
I know.
But no, that's exactly what it is. I can't just stand there.
No, me neither. I feel like a spare prick. That's what I call it. It's a spare prick syndrome. I'm like, I just feel like an absolute knob, as I would say. You guys,
the summary of today's podcast is don't be a knob or a prick. That's basically. It's
a good life motto, though. I literally have a badge that says "Don't be a dick." That is literally a good life motto.
I agree. I remember. I forget his name. Australian comedian. It's gonna kick my ass.
Jim Jeffries.
Jim Jeffries.
Yeah.
Just summarize all religions, all inspirational quotes, all the talks, everything that's ever been done to just try not to be a cunt.
It should be most people's motivation for life. Just don't be a dick.
Just try not to be a shit person.
Yeah.
Still Shout says, which band/artist do you wish you want to go on a show with? And which country do you want to do a show at? Points at Saudi Arabia. So who would you want to like do monitors for? And what country haven't you done that in yet?
I think for me, I would love to. I genuinely don't think I could do Lamb of God's monitors because I would just be like, I mean, I know their stuff so well, so probably I could. But for me, I just love watching them. But I think I'd say architects now, because the architects I worked with before, obviously, they were just starting out on the scene. And as amazing as they were, now they're a whole different level, I think, of production. And it would just be really interesting to see how they run that live. So I'd probably say architects. And country-wise, I would like to actually try the US. I've not actually done many gigs in the US. So it would be quite an interesting place to... There's just so many venues. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many iconic venues, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like pillar venues that I think would be cool, especially in the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be quite interesting to tap into that market, but we'll see.
Let's talk about we're talking about moving around. We're talking about different countries. Mm-hmm. How the fuck did you end up in Dubai, Sheenagh?
So I had one of my really good friends, Roberto. He lived here. And he has done for the past 15 years or whatever, I think. About 15 years. And I came over to visit him. And he kind of showed me around Dubai. And I was like, oh, it's quite interesting. And I met with a couple of studios. And then kind of got a job offer that way. And so I was like, well, it's one of these things where you just kind of try out and see if it works for me or not. And luckily, my brother-in-law, he was offered a job in Dubai on the same week I was, which was very bizarre, considering he lives in London. My sister and him lived in London. I lived in Edinburgh. And so we decided to move out. And he moved out in the same week I did. So I had family here too, which was quite nice.
Oh, that's fucking crazy. That never happens.
Really rare, super rare. So at least I had someone that was new also in town. And so we could have a sort of freak out fest when you're, trying to learn the fucking roads here or whatever. So yeah.
I don't think you can ever do that.
No.
I still don't fucking know them.
It's like just press accelerate and hope for the best. That is pretty much Dubai driving. So then I moved out to work in a studio here, and I was producing, I can't remember the artist, but it was an artist which was a songwriter but didn't actually play anything. I think they played a bit of keys. So everything else was kind of, I got session musicians in to sort of like on guitar, keys and bass and all, and drums and everything. And the session people that I had in, the bass player was like, oh yeah, I'm putting this band together, like just like a corporate band together. He was chatting to me about that. And anyway, I was adding backing vocals because I heard some backing vocals. I was like, oh, just 2 seconds. And I pressed record and I ran into the booth and I just laid down these sort of backing vocals that I heard just so I didn't forget them. And then I came back through and he's like, oh, you can sing. And I was like, at this point, I genuinely hadn't sang on stage for about 7 years.
Yeah.
So before moving to Dubai. And he was like, oh, you can sing. And I was like, yeah, I suppose I sing in the studio for like backing vocals and stuff, but like I haven't performed in years. And he's like, well, why don't you just come down to a rehearsal? He's like, I'm putting a band together. I was like, okay. And then from then on, we started a band and we were together as a band for like 4 years, playing in like Hard Rock Cafe and everything. And it was so much fun. It was really good.
Where does that, because dropping, going for a visit and then going, I'm going to move here, takes, it takes a little bit of balls.
Definitely. And it was kind of, I came out for a job, which I suppose was kind of, there was some, what's the word? I had a little bit of a sort of like safety net there. So I came out for a job, which is good. But again, like I'd only been in Dubai for like a week previously and kind of got to know it. I was like, okay. But the thing with Dubai, it takes you like a good 6 months to get used to this place. Just the way it works.
I would argue a lot more. I'm still getting used to this fucking place. It's been 10 years, Sheenagh.
I know, right? I know for me, it's nearly been 8 and I'm still like, that's the thing is I came over, I was like, yeah, I'll try it. I was like, I'll try out for a couple of years and see how I get on. And, like everybody else, I've been here for 8 years. So.
Yeah, I think that's the Dubai thing. For those that don't know, the Dubai thing is, I'm only here for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then you're in the double digits and you're like, I'm looking at ways where I can start justifying the idea of me not being a Dubai person
Yeah.
Everyone is at the end of the day.
It's when you go home, like when I go home to visit my family. So I live in a tiny village, just outside Aberdeen, and right on this sort of coast. And there is no sort of Deliveroo or like, any sort of like Insta shop or anything that all the luxuries that we are accustomed to in Dubai. It just doesn't happen. Like, so you go on something like, we have the UK version of delivery, which is called Just Eat, and like one place will deliver to our tiny village, and it's like a chip shop or something. And I'm like, it's a shock, a bit of a shock every time you go back, because you get, which I try not to, but you get so used to living in Dubai and everything's so accessible, and it's too easy. It makes life far too easy for people. And I get it. That's why people stay, is because everything's at your fingertips at all times of the day.
Yeah.
And then you go
absolutely.
somewhere which is normal, and you're like, oh yeah, I can't just order like a Kit Kat from the shop downstairs and for them to deliver up to my house. It's ridiculous.
It's one of those things when Derpy was visiting us, it's like, we fucking need some, a box of tissues and some coffee. Wait, let's Askar says 12 years and counting. Came to see Iron Maiden in 2010 and I'm still here.
Oh, love that.
Metal Eris, what's going on? Says neat story. Demon Hunter's in the house. What's going on, Demon Hunter? How you guys doing? Polar Cat, I lived in Dubai for about 9 years. Polar Cat, how was your experience? Let us know in the chat. I'm curious how everybody sees that, because it's a whole different kind of experience for different people. It's always very, very different. Ask my question, please. Okay, Derpy has a question in the question box. What's your favorite and least favorite thing about Dubai?
I'd say my favorite thing is probably what we were chatting about, was like everything's so accessible. It's so bad, but it's so good at the same time, because, as much as I am organized, and when it comes to like life shit, I'm really not. So when you're like, fuck, I've run out of this, and fuck, I've run out of that, and it's 10 p.m. and you're just like, oh, InstaShop.
Yeah. That's the best.
Bad. Least favorite. Let's say least favorite. I'd probably say the driving. I mean, I love driving first and foremost, but when I go back to the UK, I am swiftly reminded at how courteous UK drivers are. And then I come back here and I'm just like, it's like eat or be eaten on this road. You're like, just go. Don't think about letting anybody else out. You're never going to drive anywhere. So I'd say probably the driving's a bit of a shitter, but you get used to it.
You're always in competition here.
Yeah, it's the me first mentality is what it is.
If you're signaling, if there's a tiny gap between you and the car in front of you, if anything is open to anyone, they will take it. That's basically it. Me first, yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing, is that mentality out with the roads as well. That's what pisses me off. It's like when you're in like Carrefour or whatever, that's how I pronounce it. I don't think that's right. Carrefour or whatever it is. And you see, it's like a sense of entitlement people get sometimes when they come to Dubai, where, for example, they've been working in their own country, wherever. For example, the UK is a perfect example of it, because I've seen it with people. They've been working in the UK and they come over to Dubai, and, their salary is higher, and their status is a bit higher when it comes to their job. And they kind of, instead of embracing that and kind of using that as a catalyst to do better in your life and, save, and just generally, as we were saying, just not be a dick to other people. Sometimes people go the opposite way. Yeah. And they have what is like a sense of entitlement. Yeah. And they kind of unleash that on people, like someone at the checkout in Carrefour, or the bag boy, or, and they're just super rude to that. I cannot stand that. I literally will shout at people in Carrefour. And I'm like, what gives you the fucking right to talk to that person just the way you did? Do you think you're better than them? Like, that's one thing that, so even though on the roads, there's that, when you see it in person, it just pisses me right off.
I think it also applies in a lot of ways to a lot of people I met. I don't know if I'm reaching here, but there are a lot of people I met in the music scene here that applied that same entitlement to their music. And okay. I've met a lot of musicians from Dubai that are like, they're using the badge of Dubai and the fact that they get to play a show here and there in Dubai as like, I don't know how to explain it, man. I don't know how to explain it without dropping any names.
You gonna get in trouble.
Because all the examples have people in it. Shit. But you know what I mean? Like, there's a thing, there's a status when it comes to this city in particular. And you could either use that to your advantage, like Svengali does. Svengali says Dubai-based metal band because we want people from outside of Dubai to be like, oh shit, we heard of this weird country called the United Arab Emirates, and we know a little bit about this word Dubai. A lot of the outside world just knows the word Dubai, but there's a lot of people that like believe in the hype, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
They buy their own bullshit, and kind of pass that on to everyone they interact with. That's kind of another downside for this place.
No, I agree with that. I swear it comes from a base of insecurity.
It does. Everything stems from that.
Yeah, and they just project their insecurities narcissistically onto others. So
Polar Cat is in chat saying, I moved there in 2008. Then the financial crisis happened. I love that period. Rent went down significantly and population dropped. I worked for 3 years in digital advertising agencies before I got my freelance license. It was fun, but towards the end, became so expensive. It was ridiculous to stay. Polar Cat, what were you in the media freelance world?
To me, I need a fucking drink. When do you not need a drink, bro?
Well, here's to you then. Cheers.
I know. Cheers. Oh, I'll get mine.
Grab a beverage. The adult
one.
juice, you guys. The adult juice. I still hear the sound of the AC in my head. Yeah, you can't get rid of ACs. That definitely sticks. Cheers, Craggers. Thank you for the green light. Yeah, there's a crazy amount of things that happen in Dubai, but that's what leads me to meeting you, because outside of all the obvious avenues that you and I should have, bumped into each other, the first time we officially met was you doing sound for Svengali. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah, that is true, actually. And it's strange because, I have to thank Tamimi for this because I didn't really know there was much of a metal scene in Dubai. And then Tamimi, being Tamimi because he's awesome, he took me out to a gig, and then I just looked around and there was just like fucking loads of rock and metal people, and I was like, where the fuck have I been? Like, why did I not know of all of this? Yeah. And then from then on, I kind of just met everyone in the scene, and I was like, it's just so obviously everyone thought I was new to the region, and I was like, no, I've been here for like fucking 5 years at this point or whatever, or 6 years. But I just didn't know. I didn't know there was such a like a massive metal scene here. And it's just, as soon as I find it, because for me, it's like a sense of belonging. And that sounds ridiculous and cheesy and whatever, but it is such a sense of like community for me, because that's what I'm used to. Like the metal community has such a different way of working than any other type of music communities.
It's one of those things, that happens more often in Dubai than I would personally like to admit. And that's one of the reasons why Unmuted kind of tries to promote the Middle Eastern metal scene is you're not the only person. Actually, last Saturday or whenever it was when we hung out, Thomas, our good friend, who's Advoth in the chat, Kanye Thomas, had been here for 6 years and only found out there was a metal scene when Svengali opened for Sepultura.
True.
And they had zero idea that it existed. One of the reasons that is because we had to keep shit on the down low. There was a lot of times where the scene couldn't physically promote the events and stuff. So there it is, Adva, story of my life in Dubai as well. Where was Tamimi when we moved here? So it actually happens a little more often than not. And everybody in the chat, can you all just type, just for me, just type fuck Tamimi in the chat. Temimi, or spell it however you want. Just Tamimi. And just put the word fuck in front of it. Yeah.
Love you, Tamimi.
But so you had a more of a corporate mindset moving to Dubai, which also kind of promotes the Dubai, like Dubai and corporate kind of goes hand in hand. When you started finding the metal scene and finding the bands and you performing in a band yourself, did that open up a different kind of dynamic to the city and to you being here in general?
Oh, yeah, massively. I mean, for me, like since day one, I've always been in the music scene here in some way. That was always my job. I worked in a studio. So we had all different types of musicians coming in and out. And so I was, from Arabic music to sort of rap and everything. But there wasn't a lot of rock coming through the studio. There'd be a lot of like bands, kind of rehearsing in the, the rooms next door or whatever. But I'd never really seen, because obviously when I moved to Dubai, it was after all of the massive rock gigs that were going, like desert rock and everything. All of that was before my time in Dubai. And so when people used to tell me about, oh yeah, like Maiden was here, and I'm like, when? Like, how did I miss all this? Well, obviously I wasn't here then, but that kind of blew my mind because I never really saw that side of Dubai.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't think bands like that would play here.
Dude, 30,000 people with Testament, Machine Head, The Darkness.
I know, right?
What? In 2005.
I'm just so gutted I missed all that, because that would have been phenomenal. Like, it just would have been so amazing. But as soon as I found the rock and metal scene, it completely opened Dubai to me. And I was like, I would kind of go out socially a lot more, because it was with a lot more like-minded people who were listening to the same music that I liked. Because there's something for me, it's like a form of therapy. If you've had a long fucking week, and then on Friday night, for example, you go into a bar that's blasting metal. For me, that is a form of therapy. It's a form of a reset for my brain, because it's the music I love. And it's rare for me to, like, before then, it was rare for me to find somewhere that would be blasting, for example, Machine Head or Lamb of God or, Mastodon or something through PA speakers. I'd have it in my headphones, I'd have it in my car, but I would never, it was rare for me to find a venue or a bar that was playing this type of music.
Yeah.
And so obviously I found these different places. I was like, whoa, like my mind was blown. I was like, and it feels more like home to me that way, because this is what I enjoy, like when I go out socially.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. Also, I just wanted to pause. Ace, I just want to say, fuck you, you youngin'. He says he missed Desert Rock too, even though he was 7 when it happened. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
You're so young. He's
Oh,
definitely
you're
not
just
43.
a baby. Oh, bless you. Nothing wrong with being young.
Sandy Sin's in the house. What's going on, Sandy? Sandy from Aiming Graves, y'all. Massive shout out to Sandy, who also streams. Go follow her Twitch channel. 43, yeah, everybody's 43. I think one of the coolest things that happened in my recent stint in the UAE is after I got comfortable, after I started establishing kind of my position in the country, I started collaborating with people, be on film projects or editing stuff or music. No spoilers, but you getting up on stage, I've seen you a bunch of times. Even before we officially met, I've seen you a bunch of times.
Really?
A ton of times.
Oh, shit.
You play with a ton of different people. I've played with the same 3 dudes for the last 10 years. I know when someone farts on stage, I know who it is. Like
you're like, that is the pitch of,
yeah, that's Ali fart right there. I know that's him. But you jam and play and sing with a lot of different people, where you just have to kind of get up and vibe with them.
It's like a sink or swim thing. You've kind of got to, because some corporate functions, they say, this is your band, you'll meet them on stage at the event. And for me, oh fuck, I know.
That scares the shit out of me. Like
they give me the song list, and I give them, for me, I'm a bit of I call it a key Nazi. Like, I hate changing keys of songs, because I'm very much of the idea that people write songs in a certain key for a reason. And if you change the key, it changes the song. So if I'm ever doing covers, I refuse to change the key. Even if I can't sing it, then I'll change the song. and I'll sub it for a different one. But and so I'll send them the keys. I'll say, guys, this is the original keys of all the songs. This is the singing this type of structure, and then you get on stage and you just kind of hope for the best. That's not a comfortable thing for me, though. I don't like doing that. I'm very much like, I like having rehearsals, and I like feeling like we're going to go on stage and smash it. I don't want to have, is this the guitar solo coming up now, or is this, I don't like that at all. It's not a comfortable feeling.
Yeah, I don't even know how you do it. Even when it's not. Chat, you've seen me fuck up Svengali lyrics on this stream. I had to Google my own lyrics the other day.
Oh, fuck.
It was bad. It's I can't do the on the fly stuff. Lord Zeppelin, what's going on? Welcome in. He says you were 16, so it's not that long ago. Listen, man, 16 is not 7, at least. I fuck up my lyrics all the time. From Sandy Sin. Sandy, your lyrics are complicated. You need a fucking dictionary to read yours. Mine are like, I love my friends, I love my family.
Now drink.
Yeah. Cheers. That's my entire discography. Kamikoze, welcome in. Yeah, it's crazy, and I'm gonna spoil it. I'm gonna spoil it a little bit because it's gonna be a little while before it comes out. But you and I got to work on some stuff together. Mm-hmm. We got to work on some stuff together, some music stuff together, and I got to see like the full range, because I don't know if you guys know this, but go check out. Put your hands up exactly to me. Go check out Sheenagh's Instagram, because you do Harmony Hot Seat.
Oh yeah! Oh fuck yeah! It's been a while since I've done one of those. I need to do another one soon. Fuck.
There's that's kind of you live at primarily the Hard Rock with Distillers, and Harmony Hot Seat is kind of my introduction to you. Then I saw you at the Svengali show where you did our sound. The best fucking sounding show I've ever played. I'm genuinely. You can check out the Svengali Instagram. We have that. The Harmony Hassas? No, it's not the Hassas.
Hassas. That's a great name though. Harmony Hassas.
And then I thanks to Tamimi again. Fuck Tamimi in the chat. We started contemplating working together, and then we eventually got to work together on some music stuff. And I saw the full Sheenagh, if you will.
And all her warbly glory. Yeah.
No, but it was there's a lot to unpack. There's a bunch of different things, and you've not only jumped on stage with a bunch of different people, you've not only had your own band, you've not only done that, but there's a character, is that the right word, chat? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's a quality that's 100% you, based on the insane, unique journey that you've built so far. And I think you hear that. WTG? What the fuck does that mean?
What the
god?
What the god? What the garbage?
What the garbage?
I don't know.
Way to go. Okay.
Way to go. Sorry, I'm so not young. Like for me, I'm like, I don't know what these mean.
Yo, TYT, guys.
Oh, fuck.
But yeah, is how I don't know how to phrase the question without saying obnoxious, but like how do you navigate all the different things? Like how does that happen?
Well, as in all the different, like as in from singing to sound engineering to all this sort of stuff. Yeah,
and building it in a city like Dubai. Like how do you feel about you here right now with everything that you've achieved in Dubai in the last 8 years?
I think in Dubai, because there's lots of production companies in Dubai, don't get me wrong, but how do I word this without offending anybody? There's like a taste level or a quality level that always comes into question in this region.
That's why I was struggling with that. I'm trying to say it without
Yeah, I don't know
How are you better than the rest, Sheenagh?
Like, I just don't know how you sugarcoat it. There's nothing like, for example, last week, for example, I was at a gig where I was performing, and they're like, "Oh, we have an in-house sound engineer." I was like, "Oh, fantastic, great, okay, cool." And then this lovely man comes up, and he just stood next to the desk, and I was like, "Are you doing our sound or?" And he was like, "Oh, well, what do you want me to do?" And I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." And so it's a quality level, like, and it's also a care level. For me, I love my job. Like, I genuinely love it, and I give a shit. So I want things to be as good as they possibly can be.
Yeah.
Some people, they're in a job, they have a title, for example, sound engineer, and they don't particularly want to be doing the job. Because as I always say, a sound engineer it's a very thankless job, unfortunately. You've got to love what you do. Because, for example, you go to a gig, Adnan, and the last thing you think, God, that band sounded amazing. The band did such a great job last night. But people never think, wow, that sound engineer made that band sound fucking awesome last night. And that's so natural. It's a very natural thing. And all engineers, Dahi, everyone, Romario, everyone will say the same thing. It's like they get gratification from knowing that they did a good job and the band are happy and everyone was happy listening to the band. Never do we ever look for gratification for our jobs, because it's not that type of job. Normal people go to a gig and they say, yeah, the band did a great job. But it's a team thing. The band will sound great because the sound engineer knows their shit, and vice versa. And whenever I work with a band, like, for example, you guys, because you guys absolutely know your shit. It's easy. It's an easy job for me because you guys you care about it. You know your shit. And you're all fucking amazing musicians. So that's half of my job already done. All I have to do is balance you.
I mean, Ali and Josh are okay, I guess, but I love shitting on my band.
I love it.
Metal Eris is asking, do you find it harder in the industry being female? Metal Eris, we actually answered that question. Metal Eris is a badass fucking. You happen to be a woman, but you're a badass guitarist. I think that's probably why you're leaning towards that question. We will have the full podcast on audio and video on YouTube and Spotify and everything. But just to touch on that for the people that are tuning in a little later, how was it? We talked a little bit about back in the in your first venue, and in a specific thrash metal band that was a little more colorful than others.
Yeah.
How is it moving to Dubai and like you said, you're the only female engineer here in the GCC.
That's
probably,
sad. I find that sad.
It is probably one of the only people in the the musician circuit that wears her, like, honestly on her sleeve. Is that, what's the saying, you guys?
Where's what on my sleeve? Honestly, on my sleeve. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like, you are who you are. You're not you're not picked out from a crowd and then made to sing, which also happens. But do you find it harder being female in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what we were saying earlier. It's like you go into on the technical side, for example, you already go in.
Heart on your sleeve.
Heart on your sleeve is usually the phrase, but honesty on your sleeve works too, though.
You're being kind. See, Derpy yells at me in the chat.
Yes, Derpy. Yeah, like when you go into any technical sort of situation, from my experience in this region, it's like, because you're female, you're already going in on a back foot. It feels like sometimes. So you kind of turn up to a gig and they're like, you kind of got to go through that normal thing of, oh, you're the sound engineer. Oh, okay. And I'm like, does it matter that I have breasts? Like, does shit not matter? Like, who gives a shit? If I know my shit, I know my shit. It doesn't matter.
No one's pushing the fader with the dick.
No, I know. Exactly. Well, some people might. Who knows? But I'm sure Dahi probably did that at some point.
Massive shout out to Pinky. You guys know him as Pinky in the chat. He comes here often, but Shout out to him.
I miss him. He's just such a lovely lad. I miss him so much. I'm so fucking proud of him too, what he's doing at the moment. He's absolutely smashing the gig scene in the UK at the moment and touring in Europe and everything. It's amazing.
Absolutely. What's next? What's next? You know, we talked about, I touched on, I didn't even talk about Harmony Hot Seat and the stuff you're doing for yourself, like self-produced, self kind of promotion things that you're doing on your Instagram. What's next? Where are you going to expand that? And please, !guest, and go follow on Instagram right now. You guys are in for a surprise, because the first time I saw the Harmony Hot Seat, I was like, what? How's she doing this shit?
Still my favorite one was Lamb of God. I put a fucking gospel choir behind fucking Lamb of God. It was the fun. I was laughing whilst I was filming it. It was so funny. But weirdly enough, it totally worked. That's why I was
like, they all work. That's the thing.
It's so weird. Honestly, I started Harmony's Hot Seat because it's songs that I love. You know, it's songs that I listen to all the time. And for me, I've got a weird brain when it comes to whenever I listen to songs, I hear harmonies before melodies. It's really quite weird. And so I just wanted to see what it sound like. And so I think I started with the Architects one, which I just did randomly. And there was a really beautiful sort of like crescendo in one of the songs. And so I decided just to add like some layers of harmony just to see what it sound like. Cause I heard it when I was listening to it. It wasn't in the track, but I heard it. And I was like, okay, let's see what it sounds like. And then I kind of went from there. And then never in my wildest dreams did I ever think the actual, like the response to Harmony Hot Seat was absolutely mental. Yeah. I didn't expect it, because for me, I wasn't doing it for any sort of like, I'm terrible with social media, but like for me, it wasn't for any sort of like social media gain. For me, it was just purely a passion project. Mm-hmm. And so I just started, and I tried to find like to get requests from people like to try to challenge me and see if I could, if I could add something to these tracks, and I would try and pick like the hardest type of like music. For example, Gorgon's favorite shoegaze style bands, I try and pick like, like Kowloon, Walled City or something, or like ISIS, the band. Or, I'd try and pick something that wasn't particularly melodic, and I'd add something melodic to it just to see what the sort of the contradiction would, sound like, or the contrast, sorry. And then not only did, people were so supportive. It was amazing, honestly, absolutely amazing. And not only were people like that follow me on Instagram, like friends and everything, they were so supportive. The bands themselves got in touch. Yeah. And that, honestly, when it comes to social media, that blows my tiny brain. Like it's just so accessible online. It's ridiculous. And so when the bands themselves started to share my little Harmony Hot Seat videos, I was like, this is mad. And it transpired to like one of my favorite bands of all time, which my old band, The Great City, back in like 2008, 2009. One of our biggest influences was this band. I won't name them just because it's not come out socially as in social media yet, so I can't say anything about the band. But it's literally one of my favorite bands of all time. And I put a video of theirs up onto Harmony Hot Seat onto my Instagram, and then all of a sudden I got an inbox from them, and they were like, "Holy fucking shit! What is this? This is unreal. This is amazing." And after having chats with them and stuff, and sending them, the files of what it sounded like, I'm actually working with them now on a track.
Oh shit!
It's blown my mind. And these are like, and what's really sweet is like, they're just the nicest guys. And so we chat every so often about random shit. And then, they comment on some of my, Harmony Hot Seats and stuff. But like, by the end of this year, there will be a release from this band, which are one of my favorite bands, featuring me. It's fucking mad. Like,
oh shit. Oh like, shit. Wait. I'm gonna mute you to the crowd. I'm gonna mute you to the chat, but have it available in my ears. Just cover your mouth like this and tell me the band name. You're mute. Yes. Okay.
Cool. Oh yeah, I just moved my hand away. I was like,
yeah, I know. No one read the lips.
Oh, ISIS influenced me, as in the band. This is from Metal Eris. They're like one of my favorite bands.
Let's hope it's the band. Yes.
Yeah. Also, I feel so sorry for them because they had to change their name on Instagram to ISIS the band.
The band, yeah.
But so that's always been like a side project for me, which I just love. And it's obviously then moved on to something I would have never dreamed, working with different bands that I never thought I'd be working with in that capacity. And then, so whilst doing that, I'd also like to potentially go back and work some of the festivals in the UK again, because I've been out of that scene for about 6 years now. And I kind of have that itch to go back again and sort of get back on the roster, which would be quite fun.
Yeah.
And lastly, unfortunately, the company I was working with, which were amazing, like my team were incredible. The company went under a month and a half ago.
Is it a COVID thing?
No, it was the CEO was a tool, an absolute tool. That's what it was. The CEO, unfortunately, fucked up our numbers for investment, and it was just generally a bit of a twat. So unfortunately, the company went under. And so I decided, do you know what? I'm tired of working for knobs. So I decided to start my own thing. So starting my own post-production studio.
Wait. We need several air horns for this. First of all, Empyrean Audio, thank you for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. How's it going, y'all? Empyrean, thank you for bringing your homies over. Exclamation point guest if you want to know more about our guest, but specifically now because we're talking about your own studio. You're building your own thing. I'm always a fan. Chat knows this of people diving headfirst into the concrete.
Pretty much.
There's a special quality to just free falling.
With no parachute.
When it comes to like entrepreneurship and building your own thing. But tell us a little bit about the studio. You're starting your own thing.
Yeah, so it's pretty much what I was doing in my last job, but I'm just doing it for myself now. So what I do is it's post-production house. Effectively, is what it's going to be. So it'll be sound design, Foley, music composition. And audio editing for clients, for example. So it'll be for film, for TV, for podcasts, and music as well. So that's pretty much what my job has been for the past 4 years anyway here. And so I decided to step out on that fucking proverbial ledge and do it myself. So I have just created my own website and everything now, and it's called Watermelon Studios.
Watermelon Studios.
There's a story behind the name, yeah.
Why? I want to know why watermelon.
So for the first feature film that I worked on, this is back in Edinburgh. There was a scene where there was it was like a zombie scene where the zombie had to be punched and kicked. And you know, with Hollywood, it's never just the actual sound of a real punch. You know, even like Wolverine and his, you know, when the sort of, what do you call them?
Claws,
that's the one.
Little knives, yeah.
When his little knives come out of his fists. That's 47 layered sound effects to make that one thing. 47 different things to make that noise of his sort of claws coming out. So this is the world of sound design. And so yeah, for Watermelon, I was in the Foley room. So I was in the Foley booth because there were some sound effects that we couldn't obtain from libraries. And so one of the sound effects for punching this zombie, I cut a watermelon in half, placed a splash guard over the microphone, bless. And then I proceeded to punch the inside of the watermelon to get the sweetest sound it's like a sweetener for a punch sound. And then literally that's what I do. I was like, this is definitely my job. And I said to myself that day, I was like, do you know what? If I ever open my own post facility, it's going to be called Watermelon Studios.
That's a fucking great story, dude. Please tell me there's footage or a photo of you punching a watermelon somewhere.
I don't know if there is, you know, like I'm obviously there's the sound effect that was layered into the film, but like I don't think there actually is many.
I want to see footage of you punching a watermelon. That's
I tell you, people go to these smash rooms and stuff. I'm like, nah, bro, just get a watermelon, chop it in half, punch the shit out of it. It's like cathartic. I swear, it's amazing.
couple that
Messy,
with
though.
footage of a zombie being punched. There you go. You got
great.
nothing else going on.
So much fun. Messy though, but fun.
Messy, but fun.
Yeah.
Empyrean, thanks again. Now that's the kind of layering and overkill I can appreciate. There you go. Sheenagh, are you ready? Are you ready for this question? This is kind of how we wind down the show, Sheenagh.
Okay.
I'm gonna kill the background music real quick because this is serious.
Super serious.
Yeah, let's get in here a little bit. Listen, you guys. Sheenagh, if you had a time machine, you were to go back in time. Thank you for the pink wall. Shit, I was trying to do it all serious. God damn it, you guys. If you had a time machine, you were about to go back in time, pre-punching watermelons, pre-moving to Dubai, pre-doing audio for Deftones and Machine Head, just as you were getting into music, before you decided that's what you wanted to study, just at the very start of that road, and you had a time machine, you went back and met young Sheenagh right there, what would you say?
I'd probably say, first of all, stop messing with your fucking hair, because I had some questionable hairdos when I was growing up, most of which were thanks to my mum. So, but I think on a more serious note, I'd probably say don't question your skills as much, because for me, I used to always question myself, always, not even so much my skills, just myself as a person. I'd always question myself, am I smart enough? Am I, sociable enough? Am I knowledgeable enough? And I'd always think I'd always try and compare myself to people, which when you grow older, you stop doing that because it's just a waste of your fucking energy.
Just don't give a shit.
Just don't give a shit. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be, because you always, when you're younger, you tend to compare yourself to someone that you think is the dog's bollocks or the shit. You're always like, oh, that person's so much more talented than me, and so much this or whatever the X is, they're so much whatever than me. And there is, it sounds really fake or whatever, but there is only one of you in the world, so do whatever the fuck you want to do. If you've crash and burn, at least you fucking tried.
Absolutely.
It's just to stop questioning myself. That would have definitely been what I would have said to my younger self.
Doubt was one of my answers too. I think there was this, and there still is. I'm still working on it, but the idea of I've stopped things that I'm now as a 34-year-old trying to get back that I had when I was 16, because I just thought there's no way I could achieve this. There's no way I could just do that and not worry about, you know what I mean? I stopped myself just purely on doubt, not because there was any obstacles in the path, but it was just purely on doubt. And, as an adult now that I don't give much of a shit,
Yeah.
it's much easier. It's much easier to look back. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because that's the thing. At the end of the day, you're always going to be your own worst critic. There's no one in life that's going to judge you as much as you judge yourself. So
and coming from you, I've seen you work.
Oh,
God damn, you're harsh on yourself.
I know. That's the thing. It's just, I know I need to kind of work on that a little bit, I think. But yeah, it's just stop giving a shit about what other people think, and just embrace your own individuality, because you're different from everybody else, and that's a fucking beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And I wish younger people would see that, though, because it pains me when I see people on Instagram and they're trying to change themselves with these filters and shit to make themselves look like what they think beautiful is or what they think normal is. And I'm like, no, the thing that makes you beautiful is your own fucking thing, is your own brain, your own individuality, your own style. Just embrace it. But it's hard to explain that to people that are young. I wouldn't have believed that when I was that age.
It's a little better now than when I was young. It's a little better now accepting people. There's a lot more conversation about it. At least now there is somewhere to look online and find maybe other communities or people that can, at least
relate.
make you feel not make you feel alone. When we were growing up, holy shit, there was like, I was the only metalhead in an entire country in Qatar. Like growing up in Doha, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Thinking that this was it for me. Like there's absolutely no one else out there that can get what I want to get.
But it's kind of a double-edged sword though, because I do genuinely feel sorry for kids now, because when we were younger, there was no social media. So when you did some stupid shit when you were younger, it was not posted on social media and shown to the world, like maybe in physical photo form. But I feel like it's a lot of pressure for them, and I don't know how I would have handled that at that age.
Dude, I've said this before. I would be fucking canceled if me as a teenager was broadcast anywhere for anyone.
It's tough.
Yeah.
As amazing as the internet is for to find a community and to find, help on anything, like it's so accessible, which I think is phenomenal. But there's always, it's the instant gratification lifestyle. People post a picture up and they're on their phone waiting for someone to like their picture, and it makes them feel better. And I'm like, no, it's not healthy,
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing, listen, everybody that knows me knows that I'm very bad at replying to like WhatsApp messages, and I get a lot of shit for it, generally speaking, but that's because I don't have the bubbles that say the notification pop up on anything other than email. And that one particular thing has completely changed the way I interact with social media. Because then when you feel like opening Instagram, you see the messages, and if you're already on, that's fine. But the ping and the instant, like, I have to check now what just happened, kind of fucked with me for a while, especially in the early days of Unmuted, when I was like promoting it a little more and stuff, and wondering like, oh, is this something that we can sustain? Do people even give a shit about me talking about Middle Eastern metal and stuff? It was like a constant reminder of either I'm doing well or I'm not doing that well. So I turned all that shit off.
Yeah.
I turned it all off. But I can't imagine being 13 in this day and age. That's just...
No. Like even now, I don't know if anybody else in the chat is the same, but like sometimes when... I don't know if it's an anxiety thing or whatever, but sometimes if I have like 15 unread messages in my WhatsApp, I get so overwhelmed. I feel like anxious because I'm like, I know I need to get back to these, but I don't have the mental capacity to do it. I'm just like, I just want to leave it. And I'm like, I will get back to them, but then I get more stressed because I'm not getting back to them. And it's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
So it's the same with social media, like any sort of apps like that. It's it's very stressful.
It is. And we have a little space. I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a little safe space where I'm not going to name any names, but someone was talking a little bit about that in our safe space on Discord. So if there's anything like that you want to vent, we got a little space for that. 13 now. Yeah, if I was 13 now, Metal Airs. Empyrean says, "Oh, I feel the imposter syndrome, dude. Imposter syndrome
is real.
It's real. It's very,
so real.
Very real. Yeah.
And it's so hard to shake. That's the thing. It's so hard to like just power through that and get through the other side, because you're constantly. That's what I was saying whenever I used to go up to monitors and to the monitor position, and I literally would have like a massive bout of imposter syndrome, and I'm like, the fuck am I doing here? And I look up at the band, I'm like, how did I get here? What am I doing? You question everything. Like, should I be doing this? Am I the one that should be doing this? Or it's just so difficult.
I have that, but I also believe in like a fake it till you make it thing, which contradict each other. But I just once I feel that, I just go, just pretend for a while, and I kind of convince myself that I'm pretending, but I'm actually doing that in the job.
Yeah.
But
it's like you're tricking your brain into thinking that you know what you're doing.
It helps me analyze it a little better when I'm like, just fucking fake it, bro. Just fake it, and something will happen. And that's the only way I've been able to get past these things. I don't use this word. I hate social media for the most part. I have found so many bands.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I found a ton of bands on social media, and especially these days on Instagram. Like you said, you know, you can post a review or a cover or a Harmony hot seat, and these guys can just turn around and be like, "Hey, man, I like that shit."
Yeah, it's mad. It's made the world very accessible. Like if you want to show someone, like a musician that you love, like you've done a cover, it could reach them. You tag them in it.
Tamim says, strong believer in fake it till you make it. It's not so much literally faking it, but more of getting through the door and learning on the way. Absolutely. That's kind of my thing as well.
Yeah. Because starting is the hardest part, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what she said.
I swear you need a drum fill sound.
You were worried about what to talk about. We're already over, and I still feel like I have another episode in me to ask you about.
Oh, that was honestly so much fun. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous before I came on because I'm not used to really talking about shit that I've done before. So that was an experience, but I really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me, everyone.
Sheenagh, I don't know if you know this, but the tradition around here is the show does not end until you say the words hit the outro, and that is the only way we will end the show. So I'm gonna peace out, you guys. I'm gonna say my farewells. Thank you for everything. Thank you to all the subs and the bits and the raids. You guys are fucking amazing. Sheenagh, you run the show now. You have the floor with the tribe. Tell them whatever you want, and whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you everyone for having me, and thanks for the questions. And hit that outro.
Welcome to the show.